All right, welcome back, guys. I'm gonna go open the chapter notes. That's really talking to myself. Uh, let's look at some of the problems. That's all. I don't think the problems are really that difficult in this section, based on my recollection. Okay, so graph each function. Be sure to label the key points and at least two cycle. Use the graph to determine the domain and the range. Okay, so guys, now, of course, I won't probably ask you to do a graph because the exam will be on MATLAB. They'll ask you to identify it, which is the right one. They'll probably give you two or three graphs. Now, do some of the problems from 2.5. I'll do one here. Okay, I'll do 22. Let's say I'll do 22 and I'll answer the question they're asking me to answer. Okay, so this one, I'll do 22. Let me see if I can grab this. And they want us to find what? Be sure to label the key points, show at least two cycles, sure. Use the graph to determine domain and range. Basically, we want to find the domain and range, okay? The good news, we are using Desmos, so the graph is the graph that we graph. That's totally fine. If you're using your calculator, exactly same thing applies. You don't have to copy anything for me. You may be given a couple of pictures and you'll have to choose the right one based on what you see on your screen. So I'm going to graph tan of half of x. I don't need this anymore. All right. So here, so the domain will be, I'm going to write it down. Well, let's take this picture. So I graphed it, right? I have more than two cycles. They wanted at least two cycles. I have more than two. So I'm okay. I'm going to take this and answer those questions as accurately as possible. Okay. They want us to find basically domain and range, right? Clearly, the range is all real number. It's a tan function. It's like this. Anything, if you're a dot on the function, ask yourself, what could be the set of all possible y values? That is negative infinity to positive infinity. So range is the easy one. Let's do that first. And that's your range. And let's write it down. We'll do a couple today. All right, domain is also good. So I have to kind of write it in English. Domain is all real numbers except for these guys where the curve has vertical asymptotes or the curve or the function is not defined. Now, you could just say these are odd multiples of pi over 2 in English, totally fine. Or you could just say all real numbers except for this. Okay, so let's see how we write it carefully. Domain, all real numbers except for, let's enter the ones that are the exceptions. Okay, so these are pi over 2 plus minus pi over 2. I can say that. Comma, plus minus 3 pi over 2. And you can just say so on and on. You can put a comma. And why am I saying it in two different ways? Because you're going to be taking an exam. It depends on how the book phrases it, right? Sometimes these will show up as multiple choice questions. So you should be familiar that you can say, except for these, or you can also say, except for odd multiples of pi over 2. Of course, you can go back and add 5 pi over 2, but I think you get the point. So I have my graph. I have my domain and range. I have everything. Let's do one that has secant or cosecant in it. So just a little bit of summary, guys. We have seen sine and cosine kind of resemble each other. They're like waves. And we have seen secant and cosecant. They also resemble each other. They're like U-shaped curves, wine glass, U-shaped, champagne glass, whatever you want to call it. And these tan functions are completely different. They're like, I don't know how to describe it, but you're seeing one in front of you, tan and cotangent. Okay, let's do this one, negative 4 secant x. Now I'm going to leave these texts here. I may just use them later and save some time. So I'm going to go back to my Desmos and try to sketch this. Negative 4 secant of x. Okay, fine. Now, if you think you're not seeing the most interesting parts, you can always do this. So guys, very carefully, the range is going to be, if you look at it, everything above 4, okay? Everything below negative 4. All right. So how do we say it nicely? So I'm going to do a little, it's kind of, it's not cheating. I'm going to go to Word. I'm going to do the range first. Okay. So let's see. Everything above 4, all the way up to infinity. Everything below negative 4, all the way down to negative infinity. How do we do it nicely? Let's do it here. Let's see if we can do it nicely. And we'll bring it to our little slide over there. And everything will be on the same page. So I'm going to say it like this. Negative, insert. It'll take me a little bit of time, but I think it's worth our time to do things nicely. Negative infinity, comma, negative 4, square bracket, union, then 4, comma, infinity. That's the range. And yes, you have to put this kind of bracket on the right-hand side. It's called open parenthesis. I'm going to write the word range here. Now that's nicely written, okay? And you want to be familiar with it. I'm going to bring it to my other page so that we have it on the same page. This is my range. All right, let me grab this graph here. Grab this graph here, leave it here. Now, the domain is going to be all real numbers except for where you have the breaking points, the vertical asymptotes, right? Somewhere here, somewhere here. Let's go back and look at the main graph. Now, where are the vertical asymptotes? I would say right between pi and 2 pi. So it's going to be 3 pi over 2. And I can show you. Take a look. 3 pi over 2, this line. Okay, there's another one at pi over 2. So there is another one at negative pi over 2, another vertical asymptote at negative 3 pi over 2. So how do we write it properly? Now this graph is here, pi over 2, 3 pi over 2. It's same. So I'm lucky. I don't have to type it. That sounds about right. I'm glad I didn't erase it. So these are my answers to number 28. Take a look and tell me if you have any questions or not. Again, take advantage of the fact that you have access to a nice computer. Hopefully your computer is nice and you have access to all this software. Okay. And if you have a calculator, graphing calculator 8384, you're fine. But I think Desmos is a far better option. Let's see what else we can do from your book. Oh, we can do one more. So let's grab this one. Oh, this is fun. Let's try this. And you have to enter it very carefully. I'm going to save this here. I may have to erase it. I may not. We'll see. This changes totally. And let's see. Let's see if we can graph this curve without making a mistake. 3 of secant x, but really secant x over 4. Just to let you know, secant x, 1/4 times x is x over 4. Plus 1. That's interesting. All right, let's see what's going on. So, okay. Now take a look, guys. The range is going to be from this point all the way up to this point. Let's see. Let me give me 1 second. Let me double check. I didn't enter it wrong. Secant x over 4 plus 1. This is the right graph. Let me grab the picture. And I may have to come back and forth, but I do want to keep a good version of the picture on the other page before I can find the domain and the range. Okay. I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it here. All right. So the range, I'm going to come back in a second. The domain, 2 pi, 6 pi, 2 pi, 6 pi. These are the bad guys. These are the places where you have particle asymptotes. You have to say it. 2 pi, 2 pi, 6 pi, so on and so forth. 6 pi. Okay. The next one will be what, guys? You didn't have 4 pi, right? It was 6 pi. The next one, 8 pi will be missing. And then you'll have to do 10 pi. It's going up by 4. That's the pattern I see. So that's your domain. Easy. Now range is a little tricky, guys. Okay. I'm going to go back to my Desmos and show you why the range is a little tricky. Look at the range, guys. Range is going to be, what is this point? I have to zoom in to see. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's up to 4, but it starts at 2. From -2 all the way up to 4 is unavailable. So how do we write it properly? Okay, -2 to 4. I think that's right. Let me grab this, and then I'll be happy to take questions. This is the range. And I'll have to check. Yeah, the range is going to be all the way from -infinity, stops at -2. That's what I have. It includes 2. And it goes from 4 all the way up, and it includes 4. That's why I have a square bracket. So these are some of the hardest problems from this section. They're really not that bad if you have access to a calculator, a graphing calculator. So I don't have anything else today, okay, to add. If you want me to do something, I'll be happy to do it. We still have another half an hour to spend with you guys. So I have my slides here. I'm gonna stop this session and I'll be back really fast and I'll be uploading some of your videos. And thanks for coming to class. If you have any questions about the exam, do this one. I couldn't do MATLAB. I couldn't do that. Totally fine. I'll be here and I'll jump out and I'll come back. If you have questions, please come back. See you. I'll see you after the 4th of July. Have a good restful break and do the work as well. Bye-bye.